I want to leave this bit of free speech debate to move to another, and it's Israel Folau. Here was Neil Mitchell calling out Karl Stefanovic and Alison Langdon on the Today Show this morning.
Neil, you might be able to limit his use of social media. You can't stop him preaching at church. I guess you shouldn't anyway. What are your thoughts on this? Should he come back or not?
I was listening to you and Carl before we came on air. You sound like a couple of Chardonnay sipping inner city dwellers. Really, you're out of touch. Why is this bloke not entitled to his opinion?
Now, the word is, Mark, that Folau will be forced to accept some sort of gag clause if he wants to play for St George Illawarra. What's your thoughts?
Well, Peter, this is right out of proportion. I'm a keen Dragons fan, but also following the NRL. This is a code that not so long ago allowed a convicted drug peddler in Danny Wicks to come back and play for Parramatta. It's allowed someone convicted of a vicious assault, Russell Packer, to come back and play for the Dragons and also the Tigers, and Matt Lodge, who got into all sorts of trouble with the police in the United States in another vicious incident, to come back and play with the Broncos. So you've got players there at one extreme who've been convicted drug peddlers on the streets of Newcastle, actually, who came back and played in the NRL, and all the woke media elites, your Karl Stefanovics, your Ali Langdons and so forth, didn't say boo to a goose about that. But now, apparently, someone who 2 years ago paraphrased the most popular and important book in human history, the Bible, as part of his role as a religious preacher, and people certainly have got a freedom to express not only political views but religious faith opinions away from their workplace. This is in social media, had nothing to do with his role as a rugby player. He didn't have it written on his jersey or on his wrist, on taping or anything like that. So, you know, this is way out of proportion. This, unfortunately, raises the question, who are the real bigots here? I think the real bigots are those who want to deny freedom of religious faith and speech. You even saw on that clip there was a question she had to say, oh, he's a religious preacher, oh, he's allowed to do that. Well, of course he's bloody well allowed to do that. He should be allowed to play football because his religious views have got nothing to do with chasing the pigskin, the leather, around a footy field.
All right, quick one. This will surprise people at home. State and territory health ministers are knocking back a push from the Morrison government. The Morrison government wants to stop people with a disability claiming sex services, prostitution, under the National Disability Insurance Scheme. Let's have a listen.
Well, I've written to all the states and territories and I've asked them, please explain to me where you funded prostitution services in the past when you, the states, ran disability services for the last, I don't know, century. And I've heard crickets, they haven't responded. I've also asked them to assist me to change the rules, a legislative instrument if you like. Again, all the states and territories have been silent except for the ACT. And the Chief Minister's written back personally to say no, he believes that prostitution services should be included.
Some have been claiming these sorts of services or trying to claim. A court case said, well, the law doesn't say they can't. Roberts, the minister there, wants to put it absolutely beyond doubt that they can't claim sex services, prostitution under the NDIS. None of the states seem willing to leap in there with the legislation, and some want them. Say it's a right, a human right to be able to claim it, Mark?
Well, it's just appalling. I mean, this is a big spending program, and wouldn't you think, given the importance of helping people with a disability, the money would be targeted to skill development, employment, and obviously accommodation. So people have got a decent life standard and arrangements around them. So people with a disability need to have the money through their case managers funneled into those core areas of capability, of getting on with a decent lifestyle and life prospects. We had a controversy a few years ago where some of this NDIS money was being used to mow the front lawn. When you think family members and friends and even neighbours should be chipping in for that it was a financial boon for Jim the mower service coming around to people with a disability. And that was knocked on the head. But to hear that money's being wasted on prostitution, which is obviously not a core service here, and at one level, you'd think publicly funded, it's degrading for people with a disability to have the money spent that way and ticked off by their case managers. So I think Minister Roberts here is 100% correct, and hopefully he can get the states and territories to see sense.
All right, I'm out of time. Mark Latham, look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for all of that common sense.
Okay, thanks, Peter.